I'm so excited for this episode. Do you know people in your life who you haven't seen in a while, but you know you can just see them or be with them, and you know that you are just going to be in a great space? Even if they're not in a great space, you know you're going to be in a great space because they're an incredible person. Well, on today's episode, I have such a special guest. For those of you who saw me on a show years ago called My Diet is Better Than Yours, I met an incredible woman, Jennifer Cassetta. And, you know, years later, here we are. She is going to come on the show and talk about many things. So, for women out there, and I know that there are a lot of women listeners to my show, and I appreciate you just coming every time. This woman is so empowering. I just know that after this episode, you're just going to feel really great. You're going to feel protected. You're going to feel like you're able to really create that force field around yourself to be what I like to say, like your own Wonder Woman, because my son wears his Wonder Woman costume all the time. So anyway, get ready to trust and believe literally in the power of, you know, kind of creating yourself as a superhero with my girl, Jennifer Cassetta.
Somebody say hell yeah!
What's up? He's better than Oprah. Come on, y'all. This is Shaun T, and it's time to trust and believe.
Jennifer, oh my gosh. I'm so happy to have you here today.
I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy to hear your voice and see you kind of in the flesh. And hi everyone out there. I'm so happy. And the feeling's mutual, just so you know. Like
I know.
I feel the same.
I just know. I just like, it's one of those things that's a bummer because we have, I think the last time I saw you, we were at your house in California. And so, you know, the pandemic kind of just really, it's so interesting how incredible it is when the ability, when things get taken away from you, like your ability to travel or, you know, the fear of even seeing people just kind of like makes you appreciate them even more when you are able to do that. So I can't wait until we can connect again in person. But speaking of connection, I just want you to talk about the ventures you have coming up and how you're going to literally help people connect to themselves a little bit more.
Oh my goodness, where do I even begin? It has been a really long time since My Diet is Better Than Yours. It feels like a different century ago or something, but
Yes, it does. It has been.
yeah, I mean, my whole mission, as you know, is to help people, all people, right? All genders. But I really have a passion for working with women, feel more strong, more safe, and more powerful from the streets to the boardroom. So that takes on a lot of different iterations, and I wear many hats. But essentially, most of my time is doing, you know, these Art of Badassery talks around the country, which I'm getting out more again, which is really fun, getting, you know, with live audiences and connecting. So fun. And the other part is really teaching self-defense as well. And I've been doing that virtually for the last 2 years, which I would have never, ever, ever assumed I would do. But it's cool because I get to reach so many people that I normally wouldn't.
I saw on TikTok one day, there was a woman who was talking about boundaries. And she was just saying, you should no longer give people boundaries. You should create the boundary for yourself. So instead of saying, you have to stop there, it's like, I'm going to stop you there, or I'm not going to allow you into my space if you get there. So putting the onus on yourself. And it just really resonated with me. And I actually thought about you because I'm just like, wow, that's really cool. When you think of self-defense, when you think of protecting your space, it's really kind of hand in hand. So can you just talk about that for a little bit?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite topics. It's a whole chapter in my book, which is about blocking, right? So in martial arts, everything I speak on and teach, I always use martial arts as a metaphor because it's my background and I think there's just so much wisdom in it. But essentially, you know, we have to learn how to block pretty quickly or else you're going to get punched in the face lots of times, right? Or wind up on the floor. So we know in life, right? In life, the metaphor is the dojo is life. The mat is where we do the work. And you're going to have opponents coming at you left and right. Sometimes they're people. Sometimes they're insults. Sometimes they're assaults. Sometimes they're just things or people or places that are sucking your energy from you. And you don't want that either. So we learn how different styles of blocking. So in martial arts in general, there are like two kind of different styles, hard styles and softer styles. So I use that as a metaphor when teaching boundaries, right? Sometimes we need hard, direct blocks, and sometimes we can use more softer blocks, like even just creating distance or space from that person, place, or thing that's sucking your energy from you.
How do you get these women or me, because I love you, I take all your advice. How do you get us to really start to communicate with ourselves first? Because I feel like that's the foundation.
You hit the nail on the head. So first, you need to know what your boundaries are. So how do you figure those out, right? There are obvious things like, oh, well, someone raising their voice at me, at work, that's a boundary, right? But there are so many interactions that we have every day that sometimes the lines could be really blurred. So I just say, think about the last interaction that you've had where you've left that interaction and you feel anything less than powerful, than anything less than badass, anything less than safe, anything less than confident or, joyful. And then kind of think about what was it about the interaction that made you feel that way? And do you want to keep feeling that way, right? That's where the personal choice comes in. And you have to now say, well, no, I don't want that anymore. In self-defense and in real life, right? I say women and everyone has two options. You can either create distance and space from that thing, or you need to communicate what your boundaries are.
So is there a step-by-step process to help people get there to want to protect themselves sooner than later? We have it coming up at us from family members who might have, judge us, or like we said, social media people, or, it could be the neighbor across the street. Do you have like a step-by-step process to get people to acknowledge that these things are actually happening and their feelings are valuable enough to not allow it to continue sooner rather than later, if that makes sense?
Yeah. And again, this is so subjective for folks. And I always just want to say, like, you have to do what's right for you. No matter what any expert or any author or anybody says, like, people have to choose the types of blocking that they want to use that feels right for them based on, levels of comfort with confrontation. A lot of folks don't feel comfortable confronting or getting into confrontation, and that's okay, right? And that's why in this chapter in the book, I just offer lots of different ways of blocking so people have options. People can make choices best for themselves. I see so much on social media, people just giving advice like, you should do this, you do this. And I just like read these comments sometimes like, you cannot step in somebody's shoe. I don't think it's okay just to give blanket advice to folks sometimes unless you've walked a mile in their shoes. So the process that I have in the chapter is essentially, like I said, figuring out those situations in your life, any relationships in your life, any interactions that you have that don't make you feel good. And those become part of your hell no list, right? Hell no, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And then
I need to make a hell no list. You know what? I need to start my hell no list. And my producer's on the other side of the camera somewhere. Alex, we're going to make a hell no list together. We're going to do that. Anyway, sorry, Jenn. Go ahead.
It's okay. Because then you want to actually develop your hell yes list and figure out the things that you want to feel in relation with other people. Like you said, in intimate relationships, personal relationships, friendships, all of it. And then seek those people out in your life. So it's a two-part process, and it's a long process. It's a lifelong process of removing the things you don't want and actively seeking out or inviting in the things that you do want. So again, the people, places, and things that make you feel better, that make you feel stronger, more powerful, confident, whatever the things on your hell yes list are.
And I got to tell the story, and I swear I hope that my in-laws are not listening to this episode. They do listen to the podcast. So we were at dinner
Hi guys,
one
I love
time.
you guys.
So we were at dinner last week, and I looked at Scott and I winked, and he just rolled his eyes because he knew I was going to ask a question to get them into it. Some people think that I'm instigating, and I'm not. I just am like, I'm going to get them to talk about this because I know they need to talk about it, and I wanted to be there when they did talk about it because the conversation started around me. So I asked a question, and Scott is like over there just like shaking his head and smiling like you are a mess because he hates confrontation. But, I say all that to say that I have developed over the last 12 years of being with him a huge amount of respect for people who don't like confrontation because I was always kind of like, why? And now I understand that they have a way to process it too. And maybe it taken a little bit longer for them to kind of navigate their way through the turmoil is okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to tell you that story because I'm like, yes, let's talk about it. Go ahead.
And as an observer of you and your social media, I think, or what I've seen anyway, and just my opinion, I think you enjoy the confrontation because you enjoy at certain times sticking up for yourself, right? And I think that's really important to show people that we don't have to just sit there and take all of this negativity coming at us when all we're trying to do is be a light in the world, which you totally are. So
Thank you. I appreciate that because you know what? You just empower me even more because I hear so many times people say, well, I just, just ignore the haters. I'm like, no, bitch. Like, no, absolutely not. And, I talk about this a lot, but one of the reasons why I do stick up for myself is for the very reason that there are so many people out there that have a hard time sticking up for themselves. As a gay, Black man in an interracial relationship and with kids via surrogacy, all the things that some groups frown upon, when you come onto my page and you diminish my humanity because of your religion or because of your own personal beliefs or your moral police, there are a bunch of people who follow my page because they want to feel empowered because they do have some of those same struggles or they relate in the same way and they are bullied and teased. And so, well, I know that's one of the reasons why I love you so much. It's like because, we are people that know it's like you have to find a way to stick up for yourself. And I want them to feel that empowerment. It's not that it doesn't not bother me all the time or that I can ignore it, but I'm not going to. And so thank you for that. All right, let's talk about what are some of Oh, well, thank you. You gave me chills earlier. What are some of your other favorite chapters in the book? Because I definitely want to get to some other things that, really, kind of fire you up, if you will.
Sure. Oh my God. It's a little biased, but I love all the chapters in the book. No, but
I love that.
But I'll just start with the first chapter. The first chapter is white belt. So each chapter in the book represents a belt level, right? Again, the metaphor of martial arts. We all start out as white belts, pure beginners on this journey. We go to the dojo every day. We step onto the mat. We connect our mind, our body, and we prepare for the battle that's ahead, And when we step onto the mat is where we do the work. Again, for you listening, that's your places of work. That's your home life. That's your commute to work. That's your favorite bars and restaurants, right? It's your life. And this is where, again, we're going to be faced with things coming at us. So the first chapter is called Embrace the Suck. Essentially, just knowing that sucky things are going to happen, right? No one gets out of this life alive without a loss, a disappointment, grief, losing someone, financial hardships, right? We're all faced with these things. Just when we think, life is going smoothly, it's like bam, bam, bam. And that's the journey of a martial artist. You move from one belt level to the next, from white to yellow, with the goal of black belt. But before you move from one belt level to the next, you have to go through a really hard test. And the test is on the mat, but it's not just of your physical, skills. It's mental, your warrior mindset. It's mental, spiritual, and physical.
When you embrace the suck, it's like almost a way of like allowing yourselves to accept the things that you cannot change. Is there a chapter that talks about discipline in your book?
Not so much discipline, even though that is, and I mean, there's another book that comes after this. There'll be so many more lessons, but I think I always say discipline is not a dirty word, and I feel like sometimes in the wellness community, like, oh, just go with the flow and do what you feel, and I'm like, sure. And like, if you want results, you
And
need to
what?
practice some discipline, right? So I'm a big fan of it. But I would say in Blue Belt chapters I talk about self-care in more of a way where it's about energy, elevating your energy. So the martial arts metaphor is in Eastern philosophy, in martial arts, we learn about things like your chi, your ki, your prana, if you're a yoga practitioner, right? Your life force energy that runs through us. And I just think it's interesting that in Western civilization here in the States, we don't even have a word for that, yet acknowledge that it exists. But we do have a word for when it runs out, and that's called burnout, right? But we don't even acknowledge that there are whole systems and places in the world where people generate their chi and really take care of themselves.
There's a certain culture that we lack in America, and I think that it's, the energy, acceptance, and giving that also feeds into meditation, that also ultimately feeds into the mental health space. And that's why I'm so happy. I think over the pandemic, so many people had to sit in their own minds,
Right.
because they didn't have the distraction of getting in a car and dealing with traffic, or going to work and getting away from their spouse, or, not getting away from their home because they feel alone and not acknowledging that. And so what is a symbol of the blue belt?
In general, blue belt does not have a meaning. I just made this up in the book that in my journey as a martial artist, when I got to blue belt, I'm a few years in now. I want to take 3 classes in a row because I'm so in love with this art and I'm feeling so good in my body. But I started to that's also when I realized that I needed to take better care of myself if I wanted to keep going at that level. So that's when I changed my diet. I gave up meat, and not that that's for everyone. It just was my journey. I slept better. There was just things that I needed to do because I was on this kind of path to burnout at the time. I was going through charged emotions from a betrayal and, all of this stuff happening, and I was burning the candle at both ends. So I'd be on the mat and training clients out in the city for seven clients a day, right? You know what that's like being on your feet all those hours and in and out of the subways. And then at night I would meet my girlfriends for wine and comfort food. And it was and then getting back up at 6 a.m. I was burning out and I had to really stop and reprioritize.
I'm having such a brain fart. What's the name of it again?
The Art of Badassery, Unleash Your Mojo with Wisdom of the Dojo.
All right, The Art of Badassery. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So in The Art of Badassery, I think that when we talk about journey and people wanting to go on a journey, especially through your words and through your inspiration and motivation, where is this book going to take them? What can they expect at the end of that journey?
The black belt lesson is about taking the lead in life and essentially becoming a leader in your micro communities, but also in the bigger microcosm of the world, right? And essentially becoming a better human, taking on leadership qualities that you want to possess, not what you think you should possess, and just being a better person in this world. So some of those lessons are like taking a stand. Again, the martial arts metaphor is we drill stances: horse stance, back stance, front stance. And these are positions that we put our bodies in and we drill over and over and over again, essentially to not get knocked down in the face of adversity, right? It's to feel grounded and purposeful and strong and powerful. So when you know what you stand for in life, when you know what your stances are, you're not going to get knocked down by every troll, every hardship, everything, right, that's coming at you. Because it's like, okay, I know what I'm standing for. So when I got really clear that I stand for the safety and empowerment of women everywhere, when a troll says something on my social media, I'm like, got it. Great, thanks for sharing. Next. And sometimes I do go back and stand up for myself and say something. A lot of times I don't, and I'll just brush it off because I'm really clear what I stand for. And I know I'll make mistakes, and I'll say things that will upset people if that, and if that's not my intention, I'll clean it up. I'll do the work. But you have to get clear on what you stand for in this world.
I kind of want to go back to maybe not the foundation of what you do, but what I think is action oriented beyond reading, which is the self-defense part. Like, kind of go back there. Do you have a success story that you can share with people? Because I think listening to you is really wonderful, and I think people reading your book is really great. If they got to be around you, I think it'd be even better. But I almost want a success story so people can see how much you really change people's mindset to protect themselves.
I read this somewhere recently that the best success story when it comes to safety and self-defense is nothing happened, right? So it's not exciting. It's not nothing happened, right? So I do have a lot of stories like that where women will write to me and say, "Oh my God, this one particular woman in New York City, she was on the subway, and not only did she protect herself, she stood up for another woman and protected her from this guy who was harassing them, right? So that I thought was the coolest. So not only did, like I say, she stay safe, but she was an awesome bystander, which is one of the lessons too. But in general, like, I got a message today that brought me to just sobbing here, because sometimes, again, when we're on social media and we're teaching or we're doing our best, sometimes you feel like, is this just gross? Is this self-promoting? Am I going to turn 50 and still be doing TikTok videos? Sometimes I ask myself.
But some fly 50-year-old TikTokers out there.
No, I know, and it's not anything against them. Sometimes I ask myself that, but I got a message today from a woman who said, "Please keep doing these videos." I do like a one move a day. That she was attacked brutally 3 times in one night, so she has PTSD from it, and just watching these videos make her feel stronger, remind her that she is no longer a victim. And she said, "And I feel so good that today I might go outside for a walk." And I just thought, like, some people feel so unsafe in their worlds that they don't even feel safe going outside for a walk. And learning a self-defense move can make them feel more safe. So again, it's so much less about the physical techniques and all these. It's always men on my social media like, "That technique's not gonna work. That'll never work. You'll get killed." And I'm just like, dude, you're missing the picture here. These moves make you feel powerful in your body, and you feel more confident. You walk differently in this world. You feel more self-aware. It's brilliant.
Yeah, because it's also body language when you think about it. Some of these men that do attack women, or I heard a story a little bit ago. I can't remember exactly what I was watching, but a woman was being followed it was on TikTok. A woman was being followed in Target, and she saw that a guy was checking her out, and she was basically like, it doesn't creep me out when a guy checks me out. She's like, it creeps me out when they follow me and don't say anything. She's like, had he come up to me and say, "Hey, I think you're very attractive. Can I get your number?" And they had an exchange, cool. Right. But she said he waited until she left the store, and she got in the elevator in the parking garage. And that's when he came, to the door of the elevator. And, luckily, I think she said she was like something around like 6 foot tall. So she wasn't like, petite or small. So she did something to be able to push him away. But I say all that to say your body language, walking with confidence. And even though I'm a man, I'll say that Scott says that one of the things he loves about me is just how confident I am, like when I walk and all this stuff. So you know, I think, yeah, bare minimum, what you do is really help people find confidence, change the way they present themselves when they don't need to present themselves, or when they just are walking through the mall or the store,
Yeah.
is really great. Jennifer,
Yeah.
go ahead. Keep going. Go, 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 go. You're going
Oh,
to say something
well,
important.
that is the whole point of self-defense. And so there's the physical aspects that I hope no one ever has to use, but the mental part of self-defense, the ABCs, awareness, boundaries, communicating them powerfully, all the things you just mentioned, is the first part of all my self-defense presentations. And those are the techniques that people can use every single day.
You literally just answered, how do you trust and believe in your ability to defend yourself? And that was just it, the ABCs. I will also say, men out there, especially the ones that go to Jen's pages and comment that doesn't work. I'm like, that's bullshit, because half of y'all, probably 75% of you, don't know how to fight anyway. You probably just swing your arms or swing your testosterone around like that's really going to do something. So I can promise you that if you were to take one of Jen's courses and another person who's stronger than you came after you and you use this technique, number one, it probably wouldn't happen because you would have more confidence. And number two, if you did need to use it, it would work. So don't go to her page coming for her. I know she sometimes will let these comments go, but I'm not that one, bitch. Back up. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on. Oh my goodness, you just really lifted my spirits. I've had such a great day, and you are a part of that process. So thank you so much. Any final words for my Trust and Believe listeners?
For everyone listening, I just want to remind you, because I know you know this already, but I just want to remind you that all the power that you need to live your most badass life is already within you. And you just have to remember that it's there, and practice tapping into it every single day. And always trust and believe in who you are.